All right, guys, welcome to the podcast. I'm going to be recording and I'm going to be down here on Facebook on my phone, so I'm going to be doing a little bit of both. So I hope you're cool with that. And remember, the podcast always comes out on your favorite podcast platform, whether Google Play, iTunes, whatever. So make sure to check it out, Liberated Millionaire Podcast. And here we go. All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of the podcast. I am super pumped to have you here. I'm going to get my microphone here on camera and let's start it off. Remember, I'm live on Facebook, live on YouTube, recording all of this stuff, and so I'm excited, right, to be here with you and be talking to you. And today I'm talking about lottery mentality and about addressing reality and living in reality. And then for the podcast specifically, I'm going to talk about alignment and how alignment can't come until you talk about any taboo topic. Okay? And so this is just a simple thing. And remember, I want you to remember that you don't have to be perfect. You know, one of the things that scares me about coaches and people is a lot of times I think if I go to somebody who is telling me something or teaching me something, then I'm bad or I'm not perfect or I'm messing up. But the truth really is that in life, none of us are perfect. And so when I'm telling you all these intense things and being you need to be more intense and more crazy and whatever, what I mean is it's important to admit when you're messing something up the moment you realize it, but then give yourself infinite grace to figure it out, It's if you're 400 pounds overweight, then you better admit that you're 400 pounds overweight, but then give yourself a few years to lose the weight. I mean, goodness, you can't be perfect overnight. Give yourself a few more bags of chips. It's all right. You can't be perfect. And so what I'm talking about today is the fact that any taboo topic should always be able to be talked about, right? There's no such thing. A taboo topic is solely a trick, a mind control of society, of someone else, to limit your consciousness and limit your ability to think rationally. There should be no such thing as a taboo topic, okay? Right? And so anytime you sense a taboo topic in your life, anytime you sense something you shouldn't be talking about, right, chances are the talking about that thing is exactly what you should be doing. And so I just wanted to let you know that. And the reason I'm bringing this up today is because I am doing this experiment where I'm looking to live my whole life in complete alignment. Alignment meaning every day I wake up and seek out my highest consciousness. I chase my dreams. I do exactly what I feel like I was meant to do. I just explore my human potential and give it all. And then where everything naturally flows from that. So that I'm constantly happy, constantly growing, constantly feeling better, right? Constantly feeling great because of that. Okay? And here's the thing, right? Is that if you have anything blocked up inside you that you aren't willing to talk about, then that, right, is what is probably bringing you down and stopping you from doing any of this. And I just like to tell work stories because to me the workplace is such a fascinating place. Like I say all the time, I was a great student and I was so worried that I wouldn't be smart enough at work. And I was so worried I wouldn't be good enough at work. And so when I went to I tell this story all the time, but when I went to my first day of work, it was a party it was an orientation party on the Friday. I was fresh out of college on August 3rd, 2015. Or it might have been, August, it might have been July 31st or something. But my first day of work was August 3rd. And so I had this mixer July 31st before my thing on the Friday before I started work on Monday. And I come up to this other kid and I'm so nervous that I'm not going to be good enough at computer science and I'm not going to be good enough at programming and stuff because I've just graduated with my comp sci degree. And I come up to this other guy and he's talking to somebody else and he says, I just hope I can remember everything on Monday. And I'm thinking, I know, me too. I hope I can remember everything on Monday. And so I tell him that, and I'm like, I know, me too. I hope I can remember it all. And he's I studied so hard, and I tried to do so well in my computer science, and I just hope I can do a good job. And then the person just looked at me, and he was like, well, I just meant I was getting really drunk this weekend, and so I hope I can remember what happens this weekend on Monday. And I laughed. But I tell that story because that's about how my whole corporate experience went. I went in thinking that it would be all these elite people making tons of money and really happy and really talented, and that they would coach me and I would barely be good enough, but I'd get stronger and we'd all work together and I'd use all my potential, right? And we'd all admit the hard things and work really hard and do amazing stuff, okay? And instead what I found is I was about as making as much sense as that guy who got drunk every weekend. Now, most of the people at my work did not get drunk every weekend, but they did seem like zombies. They didn't seem happy. They sat there and worried, and so much of the work was wasted. Even a good company I worked at, so much work was wasted. But the part that killed me, the part that made me want to just throw people out the window into the lake behind the office, is that so many people would refuse to admit problems, And this is something that I've never been okay with, and I can't figure out why other people are okay with it. It's like, if something's a problem, not talking about it is the single best way to destroy your entire life. And so if you want to know why you feel like your entire life sucks or you're frustrated, it's actually because you're just afraid to vocalize your problems to yourself, not to anybody else. And so I didn't walk around telling everybody else they were idiots. Instead, I very gently, got frustrated in my head for 4 years, worked until I could get off my job, and then left that job because, it wasn't where I wanted to be. But the point of all this, the point of me telling that story and stuff, is that whether it's in the workplace, whether it's in your family, whether it's in society, whatever, it's utterly ludicrous to think you can't talk about something because it's just wild, right? And so just so many examples are coming through my head right now that it's hard for me to, get them all straight. One is in the workplace about the productivity of work, I would think that if I was at a workplace and 99% of the work was wasted, like in the big company I worked at, my big insurance company that I worked at when I first started, we would just all sit there and be like, instead of working 8 hours a day and hating ourselves and wasting it all, what if we just, caught all the problems for an hour a day and we're 10 times as efficient catching the problems, and then we only worked a couple of hours a day because we actually did what mattered. That's what I do now in my life. Now I get on here and stream to you guys and I do what matters, and I'm done by 10 a.m. if I don't have a workout day. I'm going to be done in 15 minutes and it will be 10 a.m. Eastern, and then I'll load everything up onto YouTube and I'll be able to go do whatever I want with my day. And I'm not saying I've reached my full potential. I'm going to have to do way more than this to really build the brand I want. But yeah, I am following my own advice and alignment here. And so, again, I'm always amazed at people in the workday who just work, even if things are mostly going to get wasted. But also, it's just taboo topics in society. Now's just a great time, right? Like about race. How can racism be a taboo topic? How could you possibly think that not talking about racial equity and racial issues could help anyone, And so this is why I'm so passionate as an advocate against racism, is not because I'm some selfless hero, but because selfishly, I want to live in a world where, everybody's happy so I can be happy. And even though I am not affected day to day by racism, I actually am, because what you don't realize is that all white people have this internalized, fear of racism in their head, fear that they're racist, and it makes them all freaking zombies. And so it's really boring to live in a world of white people where all the white people are afraid to talk about race or afraid to talk about serious things, and they literally won't talk about it and they'll shut off. It's so boring. And so if you want to know one of the reasons I'm an advocate against racism, it's because white people need to get their crap together. They're screwed over mentally by racism and they don't even realize it. And so that's another taboo topic people won't talk about. And so, most people are afraid that if they need to talk about something, then that means they have to have a solution. And that's what I'm here to give you the courage to say today, is to be able to talk about something without having a solution. If I sit here and I say, I am a white guy, I have a bunch of privileges and advantages, and there's tons of racism in the world, I don't have to follow that up with the solution. I don't have to spend all day plotting a solution. I don't have to spend all day being perfect and making a solution, right? Me admitting the problem is the solution. This is something that you're going to learn at a deeper level as you practice alignment here with me, is that admitting a problem always is the solution. The moment you can touch on what is bothering you, you have the solution already. You're just aware of it, and the awareness itself is the solution, okay? And so I'm not saying just education is the solution. It's just awareness, right? You don't even need to have tons of facts, just awareness. And so, for example, I'm a big fan of Tony Robbins. He's a great life coach. And one of the things he says that I really agree with is the limiting beliefs you don't understand you have are the things killing you in life. And so if you want to know why you're unhappy right now, it's not because of anything you are consciously thinking about. It's because of the limiting beliefs you have that you don't realize, right? So I always had this limiting belief that I had to feel sad if others were sad. And as long as I had that without realizing it, my problem was I was always going to be sad if others were sad because there was always somebody sad. But now I'm aware of that, right? I'm aware of that limiting belief. And so what does that mean? It means that now when I feel bad because others are sad, I'm just aware of it. And I'm just able to speak that out. And I'm able to speak out, yeah, there's bad things in the world. There's sad things in the world. And I don't have to be unhappy because of it. And so the way I get better is not by changing anything or having some solution, but by focusing my consciousness on the fact that it doesn't need to be that way. Okay? And so again, whether it's sex, like sex education, just think of all these different things, right? Think about sex education. Why would you not have sex education? Studies show that it's better to have sex education for kids, right? All this stuff, And so, as I've talked about before, right, with the Devil in Your Head episode, which was like 139 of the podcast a few weeks ago or something like that, the reason people wouldn't have sex education in school or in class is because there are people who want to mind control people to take information away from them. Why would you not have racial education and understand how this thing has been invented to hurt people? It's because people want to mind control you. And so, in order to be happy and not mind controlled by society, by the evil people, or just the general malaise of society, you have to be willing to talk about every single thing. Because anything you're unwilling to talk about is something that gives you an ability to be mind controlled by society. Okay? And so it's just that simple, and it's that important. And so this is why I'm saying failure to address taboo topics is always wrong. This is why I am so straightforward with my words now, and I'm just becoming more and more of that, right? Is because anytime you feel the need to wordsmith something or mince words about something, right? It's wrong, okay? And you might say, well, Woody, I don't hear you saying a lot of like mean crap, And it's because it's also wrong to say mean crap. But it's not wrong to, have thoughts. It's not wrong to admit that you're thinking mean crap. It's just that that's a separate issue, right? Like, I don't walk around saying every single mean thing I think of because I know that for my consciousness, right, it's better to focus on the positive. But addressing things in a non-charged way is always critical. Guys, it's always critical. And so I want you to hear me on this, right? The other problem you're having, right? The other thing that's stopping you from getting on your start of being in a little bit of alignment in your life is that you think that by causing some kind of problem, but you think that by admitting something is wrong, you're judging somebody. And the fact is right now you probably are. For example, in 2015 and 2016, when I was so angry in my corporate workplace, right? When I was admitting the problems, I was judging the people. I was mad at my boss. I was mad at certain coworkers. I was mad at management, and I was judging them, and that was causing bad emotions in my heart. And so thinking about those things was causing negativity. But now when I see tough things in the world and I'm like, oh, the world has everything messed up, nobody's doing anything right, there's no judgment in my heart on that. That's just a fact. And then I'm coming here with 100% love and 100% kindness to heal people and help them because goodness knows they need it, right? And so that's what I'm here for. And so what I want you to know is it's kind of a twofold thing. First of all, you have to be able to admit things, right? Because you have to trust that you can make a difference and you can fix it inside yourself. That's one reason. But the other reason it's hard to address taboo topics is because you feel like if you bring up a taboo topic or a criticism or something hard, right, that then you are judging somebody, okay? But the truth is, you don't have the capacity to judge somebody else. Like, think about this idea of judgment, okay? If there was a God judging you, maybe that's the only thing that could judge you. But I'm not even convinced that happens. But certainly as a human, you have no ability to pass judgment on somebody else. If you are a literal judge in a court of law, maybe you have a little bit, right? You have the ability to pass physical judgment, as in send someone to jail. But even a judge in a court of law has no ability to pass a moral judgment on somebody. Judgment is an invention of the human mind that only exists because of a collective mind control. There is no such thing as moral judgment. I want you to understand that from human to human, right? Whatever you believe spiritually, if you believe there's a God that can judge you, fine, right? I don't care about that. But from human to human, there is no such thing as moral judgment. Think about it if you're listening to this right now. How could I possibly judge you, right? Let's say I'm thinking about you and I judge you. What effect does that have on you? There's no chance that I can do anything to your emotions or your soul or anything. So like me judging you is literally me creating a fake mental fallacy in my head. And the only problem in the world is that everybody thinks that these fake mental fallacies about judgment are real, and so they actually believe that other people can judge them. But here's the thing, this is why I'm so bold on camera now, why I just say what I want, is because you can't judge me, right? You might be able to think you're judging me. You might be able to look at me and say, Woody, you're crazy, I think you're stupid, like morally you're wrong, everything you're saying is bad. But that's not a judgment. That's you creating a mind control for literally no reason at all, okay? And so the second problem you have is that, man, you've got this idea that somehow that somebody else can judge you, and that's not humanly possible. The laws of physics state that that's not possible, okay? And so it's also not possible for you to judge somebody else, all right? And so here's what I'm saying, right? Is let's say that your work scenario, you're at a job you really like, but something really isn't working. Like you really are at an impasse, and like your manager or your coworker is just doing something that is literally pointless, okay? If you want to be in alignment with yourself, you do have to bring it up. But in order to do that, you have to first be able to acknowledge it. And second, you got to be able to say it and understand that you are not judgmental. You can't be creating that fake judgment in your head. And the thing that makes it so freaking hard is that when you tell something to somebody about the facts of life, right? Like, for example, if I just come on Facebook and say the facts of life are that America is based on racism, has a 400-year history of racism, where it was created as a racist country to separate two different classes of poor people, which has worked perfectly, and a few rich people have exploited the entire country, and that's why racism exists. It's not because of the common people, it's just because a few really rich people in like the 1600s or whatever decided to create racism, right? If I tell you that, that's just a fact. There's no judgment inherent there. But let's say you're a white person and you react and you're like, no, like I'm not racist, like I don't have privilege, like I had to work hard, okay? Here's the truth, is that you might get mad at me and call me out for judging you. But the thing is, I'm not. I can't be judging you. I couldn't possibly be morally judging you because that doesn't exist, it's not possible. And so the coolest thing is that when you realize you have no ability to judge others, then suddenly you realize that nobody can judge you and that you can just live your life and spread love in the world. And so this is this crazy thing, is that in order to spread love in the world, in order to be your full self and then watch the beauty that happens as you spread your love in the world, in order to make that happen, you have to understand that nobody can actually judge anybody else. It's a logical fallacy. It doesn't make any sense. Again, I dare you to come on this podcast and prove to me that you have the capability to morally judge someone and cause some kind of damnation on them or some kind of consequence to their heart, mind, or spirit based on your moral judgment. By the laws of physics, it can't be done. It's not possible. There's no way, right? And while you may choose to believe what you want about a priest, right, or, God, right, from person to person, it is impossible, right, to morally judge somebody else, okay? And so how does this all round back into these taboo topics? Well, here's the thing, is that when you truly realize you couldn't possibly judge somebody, and that even when you feel a little judgment in your heart or feel a little angry, it's just a fake emotion that you've been conditioned to have by society because people want to exploit you and mind control you through judging you and thinking you think that's real. Then what happens is you now have the ability, like once you realize that's all fake, you have the ability to say the truth no matter what and always exist from 100% love. Because now, right, now when you go into your work situation and the work's not going well, you're like, hey guys, like, I didn't spend any time angry about this. I think we're really doing this wrong, but I have this idea, and I'd love to support you, and I'd love to help you, okay? Because here's what truly happens, is most people, when they talk about something hard, they create what Tony Robbins would call a negative neuroassociation. What do I mean? Well, this is something I've made a video about in the workplace, like race in the workplace. I guarantee you, if you went into 99% of white managed workplaces, those white management people would have a negative neuroassociation with talking about racism in the workplace, right? Like if I walked up to the management of a white managed company of any size and talked to that management and said, hey, why don't we get all your employees and talk about race and racism and how white people have more than black people and every other person of color is in between, right? They'd say, immediately they would think negativity. They'd think upset. But here's the thing. Once you have no judgment in your heart, no judgment of yourself or others, then when you go in and I think like, oh, let's talk about racism and race, and like I'm a white person, I have more than black people, I have more than people of color, like I have all these privileges, I don't get upset because I know that it's not my fault, nobody can judge me, right? But now I can make it better and give love and positive solutions, okay? And so that's why I am constantly bamboozled, why people won't talk about racism and stuff, and why people won't be happy about it, right? If you're sad while you're talking about racism, that means you still have inherent judgment in your heart, right? That means you still have anger in your heart. And when you come from that place, you're never going to convert anybody, right? And so this is the part of the conversation where I trigger all the liberals, because right now, so far, I've given you a very generic liberal message, right? Which is be pro-sex education, be pro-talk about racism, be pro-solving racism. But here's my message to the liberal people, is like every moment you spend in judgment or every moment you spend in, if you have any anger in your own heart and you're trying to educate people who don't believe in racism or who don't believe in sex education or people who are, not into those things, right? You're doing it wrong too, and that's okay, right? I'm not judging you. I have no moral authority to judge you, but we can all do better. And so if you're a liberal person, right, even if you're someone who thinks you're on the cutting edge of all this stuff, right, my advice to you, like my question is like, what if you could have even more love? What if when you saw that person talking about like America is not racist, like all lives matter, like all that nonsense, right? We can all agree that that's nonsense, on this channel. But whenever someone is spewing that kind of stuff, like, no, America, I'm colorblind, there is no racism in America, all lives matter, whatever else they say, right? If you can truly go to that person and you had no judgment in your heart and you had all love in your heart, then you might go to that person and you might be like, oh my gosh, like, hey, like I heard you say that and I don't even want to argue about that. Can we just spend some time together and love on each other? And oh, by the way, here's this pamphlet on how racism is real and Black Lives Matter and that this all lives matter stuff, we need to toss that in the garbage, right? But you just give them like a little pamphlet on the side. But you give them like a heaping scoop of love with a pamphlet on the side. Right? That's how good evangelism works. That's how good spreading good messages works. It's just heaping spoonfuls of unconditional love and just a little spoonful of truth on the side, right? Just a little dose of truth on the side. That's how you make change, okay? That's at least how I see it. And so I wonder what would happen if we all did that. That's what I am always here to do, right? I state the truth as I see it as a fact. It doesn't mean I'm always right. It's just I'm doing my best, right? I'm just doing my best to create a conversation that helps people. But then 99% of what I'm doing is just sending you love and sending you kindness and sending you excitement and showing you that you can feel love and kindness and excitement. And so my hope for you is not to teach you a fact, but rather to show you, right, to open your eyes and heart that like it's not possible for someone to be judging you. And so if you've ever felt judged by somebody, right, that's something that you created in yourself. And it's not because you're flawed or you're wrong or you're like, oh, like, why am I judging myself? It's because there really are evil forces out there trying to mind control you, okay? There really are, all right? People, this stuff tends to spread. And it's not that one person is the cause. It's that people have naturally kind of been conditioned to this through groupthink. But if you sit as an individual and think, man, why would I be upset? How could somebody else judge me? Doesn't make any sense, right? Then wow, you can be so liberated. And so again, this is why we call it Liberated Millionaire, is because I'm very capitalist. I'm very like laissez-faire, like let me earn my money, right? But frankly, I don't know that much about global politics and economic policy, which is why I'm also fine being taxed a ton, right? That's why I'm still a liberal voter, is because I'm also fine with that, right? I'm not a political specialist. But what I am a specialist at is love and letting go of judgment. And so if you just do that, guys, if you just love and let go of judgment, oh my goodness, life can get so good so fast. And I'm telling you today, nobody else came in to give me help today. Okay, I woke up and my wife was kind of in a tough mood and she was upset because she found out somebody she knows has COVID and now their family is getting it and all this sad stuff. So no positive forces came in to help me out today, right? There was a little negativity this morning, challenges, the world's tough, right? There's COVID, there's racism, there's all this stuff. But I didn't judge myself for bad things happening in the world. I didn't create any judgment. And so now I'm happy, I'm growing, I'm excited, I'm creating good stuff. And that's awesome. Okay, it's really awesome. And so that's my message to you, right? But the trick is you have to be able to let go of judgment, and you have to be able to know that, right, the limiting things you're not talking about are always what's killing you. Okay, it's not the things you're talking about, it's things you aren't talking about, right? And just addressing the taboo topic is the solution in itself. And so I know this was a kind of intense episode, but again, to me, there is not a negative neuroassociation with an intense episode. Think about it. If before you listen to this episode, right, you hadn't been thinking enough about racism or talking enough about it. If before you'd been thinking about this episode, you hadn't been thinking about how you're judging other people and yourself. If before you listen to this episode, you hadn't been thinking about, how angry you are and how you're not admitting it, okay? Now you can admit it all. Now it's all out in the open and you can get excited, right? Have you ever known that feeling of when you finally got something off your chest and you felt excited? That's the feeling of alignment, okay? And we know that, right? We instinctively know that, all right? And so that's what you got to do. That's what you got to practice in order to get there. So we'll do 5 more podcasts this week on the Liberated Millionaire podcast about alignment, about getting yourself into it, and mostly about my experiments. I am a baby. I am like a little infant seedling doing this. I am barely starting, but I am figuring it out. And I'm so excited to share my little infant journey with you so you can watch it all the way. That's enough for today, guys. I love you so much. I care about you. I have no ability to judge you. I only have the ability to send you love. And when you realize that the same is true for you, that you have no ability to judge yourself for anyone else, that any fake judgment you create of yourself or others, they're all false. They're fake. They're like writing a fake $5 bill and trying to cash it. You can't. It's not real, right? The only thing that's real is kindness and love and genuine, like heartfelt emotions to each other, right? That's the only thing that's real, guys. And so once you realize that, life gets a lot better. I'll talk to you next time, and don't forget, go spread the love. All right, nice episode. What is up, Facebook? We'll see you later. Finishing that live video, and then over here on the OBS recording, guys, YouTube, Peace out. Have a good day.